2012 U.S. drought. Damn it, I hate being wrong. The 2012 U.S. drought is based on the organic property of how CO2 likes water more than water likes itself, so-called hydrophilia. Three separate but related climate extremes began with the record-breaking early massive fires in the Rocky Mountains. Notice the 100% land coverage of the gray smoke, which is under the water-bearing white clouds above the smoke. These fires generated millions of tons of desiccating CO2, which blew over the farmland states of the U.S. Midwest. These plumes of CO2 not only soaked up water from the ground, but prevented upper atmospheric moisture from falling through the CO2-saturated plumes. This downwind desiccation of farmlands is the second related climate event. Again, notice the smoke layer is under the moisture-laden higher clouds. The third related climate extreme occurred downwind east of the Mississippi. Unpredicted, unprecedented violent storms downed trees and power lines, with millions of people living days or weeks without electricity. The 2012 U.S. three related climate extremes repeats many precedences, each repetition getting worse than the previous. This is Russia's 2010 massive fires that prompted Russia to ban wheat exports, which drove up global food prices. Again, notice the upper layer of moisture-laden clouds. The previous satellite pic of Russian fires and smoke was part of the article titled Russia's Fires and Pakistan's Floods, the result of a stagnant jet stream. This pre- and post-deluge image of Pakistan's Indus River is downwind from Russia. So, the Russian drought and Pakistan deluge are the second and third stages of unnatural massive CO2 release causing climate extremes. The first stage began with Russia exporting natural gas to upwind Europe. The burned gas became desiccating CO2 plumes blowing downwind to smother Mother Russia. What is the simple analogy to this boomeranging of gases? One can see the downwind effects of an unnatural, massive release of CO2 after the 2010 British Petrophilia New Horizon oil well disaster. The initial daily burning of 60,000 barrels of oil included 60 million cubic feet of natural gas that became CO2 plumes. What happened a few days later downwind? Record rainfall in downwind Tennessee and surrounding states. This image shows a rain pattern that follows a normal hurricane path, only this water was not from the Atlantic but from the BP CO2 sucking up water. Opryland was a local lottery winner of global dying. If I lived in an area deluged by British petrophilia, I would, as a private citizen or public official, initiate a multi-billion-dollar class action suit against BP for the downwind damages from the New Horizon crime against humanity. The data and evidence for the three sequence stages of CO2 release, droughts and deluges, has been around for decades. In 1982, this writer delineated how the oil wells on the Saudi peninsula desiccate and desertify the Horn of Africa via the prevailing wind patterns. This space shuttle shot of the burning Kuwaiti oil fields, 1991 Gulf War, shows smoke moving southwest over the Saudi peninsula to Africa. Unseen is the billions of cubic feet of transparent CO2 generated by the world's largest oil pumper, which flares unsold natural gas. The Saudis daily burn over 7 billion cubic feet of natural gas from the pumped 10 million barrels of oil. The average barrel of oil has 1,000 cubic feet of natural gas, which historically has not been commercially sellable. Saudis cannot sell it, so they burn it. Too bad for Africans. The Saudi-originated multi-decade drought has devastated nation after nation with catastrophic economic, social, and political chaos. Somalia, Ethiopia, Kenya, Sudan. Since 1980, over 80% of farmland in equatorial Africa has disappeared. This NASA satellite summary of fires shows the cumulative effect of desiccating CO plumes to downwind land. When you see the faces of starving African children, you see the face of petrophilia famine, and you see the face of your future. When you see the gun-toting kids spawned by the downwind destruction of food production by desiccating Saudi CO2 plumes, you see the face of your future. One compelling piece of historical evidence that Saudi Arabia is the cause of Africa's hell on earth is the 9-month-long 1973-74 OPEC oil embargo when Saudi cut production by 95%. The rains returned to Africa for those 9 months. That 9-month Saudi drought hiatus echoes how the U.S. Dust Bowls No. 1 and No. 2 ended when Texas oil production dropped by over 60%. 1939 with the start of World War II. 1956 with the start of cheap Arab imports. Blaming poor land management is not the originating cause of record droughts and fires. It is petrophilia. This montage shows a relation of Canada's oil production with downwind drought and fires. Remember the name of Edmonton's hockey team, Oilers. Remember the name of the jet stream out of Western Canada into the U.S., the Alberta Clipper. Anyone who thinks Canadians are not smart does not appreciate how Canada is going to export some of its droughts and fires to a place used to droughts and fires. If Texans like the present historical drought, also known as the Rick Perry drought due to his energy and economic policies, Texans will like the greater drought fueled by burning the petroleum transported from Canada via the Keystone Pipe. Texans only need to look at the economic and environmental effects of the Alaskan pipeline to see how a few petrophiliacs will get rich with a few trickle-down crumbs to trick the gullible, who will buy the lies broadcast on conservative-owned media outlets. Texans will buy into the lies of the petrophiliacs' lapdogs, the habitual politicians, tenured economists, and mass mediats. Because Texans, like all Americans, will believe any politician or preacher who promises something for nothing. For example, free salvation and free eternal life. Keystone Pipeline is unfair to Pennsylvania unless one views the pipeline's final effects as causing a Texas-sized repeat of the first oil boom town, Pithole, PA, a better name, Alberta Shipper, or maybe Texas Tombstone. Texas has been a petrol-fueled real estate bubble like Pithole. Plunging home prices will be a misery of the past, like the hunter forgetting the pain of stubbing his toe when he hits the bottom of the abyss into which he stumbled. When one suffers starvation, dementia, one cannot recall one's name, let alone this lie. One's home could be a bank from which one could eternally get free money. Where do people learn all this free stuff? Ironic and prophetic was the last building torn down in Pithole. As life on earth becomes hell, more people will live another self-destructive, something-for-nothing life. Forget about here on earth. Live for someplace else, which is so great that no one knows where it is. When has religious obsession and fanaticism ever helped a people? Religion has and will get in the way of saving life on earth. In other words, religion is in the process of killing you and yours. On a sinking ship, apathy is suicide. Cause for more religion in daily life and government is like the sinking ship's captain organizing bingo parties. Globodyne is a secular earthly catastrophe caused by humanity. Religion has to ignore it or has to admit its self-lies. Believers are self-deceivers. Damn it, I hate being wrong. In 2006, I concluded that national food rights would begin by 2010. I was wrong. They began in 2008. In 2006, I concluded that failed states, due to food crisis and inflation, would suffer social and political upheaval by 2012. I was wrong. They began in 2010. In 2006, I concluded the current drought conditions in the U.S. Midwest would not occur until 2014. Damn it, I was wrong again. It is happening now, today, 2012. Increasingly, the 2006 conclusion on a 90% die-off of humanity by 2015 will probably be wrong. I hate being wrong. Why will human die-off happen sooner? The fires not only cause downwind droughts, deluges, but the fires remove from the biomass billions of plants that naturally sequester CO2. An accelerating, vicious cycle is now spinning out of control. We long ago passed the tipping point. Now we have passed the recovery point. That is the point of no return. I wish I was wrong in my timeline of global dying, but I will never be wrong in concluding that no public problem solving will be done by the White House or Congress during this election year. Global dying will match political line, with the air getting hotter from the politicians' hot air. But I'm not wrong about the most important factor in global dying. The habitual politicians legalize the business practices that encourage the petrophiliacs to rape our environment and our future. In times of worsening habitual problems, the only thing worse than not voting is voting for a habitual politician. Sadly, this is the only vote we have. After World War I, the Geneva Convention outlawed the use of gas, which has killed thousands. After World War II, humanity was stunned by the Nazi use of Zyklon B gas to kill millions. Will it take World War III to fulfill the primary moral imperative? Life on Earth can survive a nuclear holocaust, but not the petrophiliac's holocaust of greenhouse gases. The elephant in the room causing global droughts, fires, inflation, riots, and terrorism is global dying from greenhouse gases. Where is the outrage and lawsuits against the petrophiliacs, who are not only killing billions of people, but are killing life on Earth with greenhouse gases? These companies are headed mostly by what H.L. Mencken referred to as the worst of God's creatures, the religious businessman who sins are forgiven on a weekly basis. But the joke is on them, especially if one understands the alpha trifecta of CO2 sins. With global dying coming home to the land of the free and the brave, where God shed his grace on thee, more honor grads, will realize from which side of the bread that their butter was stolen and by him. Mother Nature does not care. Your caring God is a figment of your imagination, created in your own image and insecurities. From the former, for CO2 sins, you will receive a richly earned and deserved hell on earth. From the latter's Pied Pipers, you will receive false hopes and promises, until your ignorance kills you and your loved ones. Global dying is not part of any God's plans. Finally, after 1,000 prophecies of end times in 2,000 years, this is the end times without rapture.